There's some potential good news coming out of Hollywood. A new rumor claims that Amazon MGM Studios is going to make a new Judge Dredd series with actor Karl Urban attached. Roll this up over at fandompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. And this latest rumor comes from the YouTube channel Tachyon Pulse Podcast. And the host of the channel said this: Karl Urban, his name has gone through the roof over at Amazon. They like him very much. They really do put down his character in The Boys as one of the main reasons why that show succeeded. And I'm hearing that conversations have already started about reigniting some sort of Judge Dredd project starring Karl Urban. That, again, it will be very true to the comic books, but it will go a lot further than they were able to do with the Dredd movie, limited by budget, basically. Later, he indicated the show might be done by the production team of The Boys. I'm hearing actually that the production team around The Boys are the ones that will potentially be doing it. So the good news, obviously, would be that Karl Urban could be returning to Judge Dredd and doing basically a sequel series from the original, that Dredd movie back in, 2012. The bad news, obviously, is that it might be done by the Boys production team. Obviously, the leader over there at the Boys is Eric Kripke. The guy is a complete and utter lunatic. He is a woke ideologue, and he's not afraid to say that he is a woke ideologue. He said this, I think last year. He was doing an interview with The Hollywood Reporter. He was asked by Mikey O'Connell about having Homelander be a metaphor for Donald Trump. And he says, how did you digest the uglier reaction to that? I saw multiple headlines with the word woke in them. And Kripke said, I clearly have a perspective, and I'm not shy about putting that perspective in the show. Anyone who wants to call the show woke or whatever, that's okay. Go watch something else. But I'm certainly not going to pull any punches or apologize for what we're doing. Some people who watch it think Homelander is the hero. What do you say to that? The show is many things. Subtle isn't one of them. So if that's the message you're getting from it, I just throw up my hands. Ironically, when asked whether or not he was influencing people with the show, he says, it's catharsis. I have no illusions about my job. I'm somewhere between a carny and a court jester. I'm not particularly up my own ass, so I don't know if it'll ever change minds. If it does, that'd be fantastic. Look, I'm a big proponent of genre, good genre, which doesn't get enough respect. Through the metaphor of superheroes or space or whatever, you can say subversive things that you never get away with in most straight dramas. So clearly he is trying to influence people. He is trying to push a message. He is trying to subvert things. He's admitting this. He's also admitting that he has a woke agenda. So if he's attached to Dredd, it's going to be absolutely terrible and is pretty much dead on arrival. So that is the bad news as part of this good news. With Urban potentially returning. So obviously a Dredd spinoff project has been in the works for quite a while. Obviously has been in creative hell. Just kind of give you a recap of where it's been. We got an update from Rebellion CEO Jason Kinsley back in 2023. Rebellion obviously owns Judge Dredd, and they said they'd been looking for a partner. And they just hadn't found the right partner yet. But in this interview he gave to Sports Illustrated, he explained, I've been working for years on trying to find the right business partner for that. We've had conversations with all the big players. Conversations are still ongoing, but the terms that we're being asked for, we can't support. They're not how we want to work. So we're getting there. We're making progress, but it's slow. So yes, I want to get some more of it done. Obviously, I want to do cool stuff. There's nothing to announce yet. Again, that was 2 years ago. In 2023. He also shed more light on why it was taking so long in that same interview. He said, one of the things I think sometimes the general public doesn't understand is how much work goes on behind the scenes, how many false starts, and how many hours you spend negotiating with somebody only to reach a point where you actually can't conclude a deal. You can't agree because it just wouldn't work for the legacy that is the archive of material we've got. We're not going to sell Judge Dredd to people, basically, and people want to buy it. That's what it comes down to. I'm afraid that won't work for us. No, we're the guardians of this IP. So obviously indicating that him being protective of the IP and probably wanting some kind of story control, creative control over it, it seemingly is one of the reasons why it has been held up so long. So it's possible that they have indeed cut a deal with Amazon if this rumor is to be believed. And I think from what I understand, and don't quote me on this, but from what I understand, a lot of the Amazon deals, they do allow people to be creative. We're hearing this from people like John Irwin, who is the creator of the House of David. He says he has been able to maintain creative control, but has received backing from Amazon with that show. And I think we kind of see that play out in some of the different television shows, right? Because obviously you have the woke infected shows like Rings of Power, like Wheel of Time, that have done terribly over there, seen massive amounts of fall off despite significant interest in those shows. And I think interest that should have actually increased if they had actually done a good job, but they totally failed with those shows. And then you have things like Terminal List and Reacher. For as much as my criticisms are of that, it does seem to at least have the theme of justice, right, in there. And then Terminal List is just a fantastic show with Chris Pratt, basically a Punisher without being Punisher. And so those have done really well. And you can see that there's obviously different creatives involved in those. And Amazon is willing to give people creative control over those shows. And they don't have kind of a overarching ideology that infects all of them. Now, obviously, I have documented that they have all of the DEI policies and everything like that as well. So that is also something like to take into account there. So they do have all of these DEI policies, but for the most part, I don't think it's really affected a lot of the creatives on some of these shows. But they do have that stuff, and obviously it has affected shows like Rings of Power, Wheel of Time much more than shows like Terminal List, Reacher, or this potential Dredd series, right? So we'll see what happens there. So that is definitely something to take into account. And obviously, I think it's a positive, though, with Amazon because they might actually give creative control here to Rebellion to be able to go to make whatever Judge Dredd series they want to make. So we did know that a Judge Dredd Mega City 1 series was in development back in 2018, with Variety reporting Rebellion had purchased a new warehouse and was planning to convert it into studio space for the series at the time. In fact, Karl Urban was in discussion to reprise his role as Judge Dredd in the series. He said during an appearance at the Star Trek Las Vegas convention in 2017, "I am in discussion with them about that. I told them if they write the material and give Dredd something to do and give him a function, I will be there. I would love to." Series producer Brian Jenkins also expressed his desire for Urban to return, saying, "We've had many discussions prior to this about all sorts of things. He's also very busy, a full-time professional actor, so we're going to have some long and complicated conversations, I would imagine, and we'll see where we go. It's too early to tell yet, but if we can use him and he's available to us, I think that would be absolutely brilliant. There's always a possibility he will be busy or that his schedule for other movies won't allow. Basically, we don't know at this stage." And then the series was eventually put on hold in 2020 due to the pandemic, with Kingsley informing the Radio Times, saying, "I want there to be a sequel to 2012 movie Dredd. We've got the rights back so we can do it. We've just got to get rid of this virus thing that's going on at the moment, and then hopefully things can kick off in all sorts of different areas of making film and TV. It's all very messed up at the moment for everybody. A lot of work has been done on all sorts of different scripts, actually. So Mega City 1, the TV show, basically we can't go into production because of the coronavirus pandemic. And we've got scripts and everything is ready to go. But the problem is because of the pandemic and everybody's funding changes and everybody's shifting around." So that's what he said in 2020. I think they should just scrap this whole serialized idea that they have with Mega City 1 that would see Dredd as kind of a cameo character player, and he wasn't going to be the main focus. They need to do an episodic Judge Dredd show, take a risk, do something like what you're seeing on CBS with Tracker, where it's episodic. It's a mission of the week. Do something like that. I think there is a craving for that. I think Dredd is made for that. It would be absolutely fantastic, and you get to do different things. I think that was. I know Netflix had the opportunity to potentially do that with The Witcher. They instead went with obviously adapting. Adapting, I say that. They didn't really adapt. They did their own version of it and serialized it. And I think it would have been more interesting to have it be kind of episodic and him going after different various things in that universe, whether it be hunting monsters or hunting the monsters that live among us. I think that is something that Dredd can do in a sci-fi space, which would be really, really interesting. Maybe you do something like Deep Space Nine, right, where it starts off episodic and then it gets serialized as you move on, but you hook people with the episodic nature of it, and then maybe have some longer story arcs intermixed. I think that could be really, really interesting. But the way that you kind of have these prestige streaming shows now, they're usually only 8 episodes. I think going episodic might be the way to do that. And then also you get a lot more replayability, I think, going episodic. I mean, you look at Star Trek. I mean, Star Trek became popular due to the episodic nature of the shows, right? And they were able to syndicate all of that stuff. So I think there's also potential there going back to those old business models. And that's what I would want to see is an episodic Judge Dredd. Can you imagine kind of the 2012 movie where he's going and invading the drug den, and that's kind of maybe like condensed a little bit into an hour-long episode. That would be absolutely fantastic. All kinds of different things that he could be looking into. You can even incorporate some of the supernatural elements. I'd probably do that a little bit later on. I want to stick more grounded early, but there's all kinds of crime-related things that Dredd can be getting into, discovering, and shutting down, and acting as the judge, jury, and executioner. And I think it would be a super hit show if they did that. But those are just kind of my thoughts on this. Let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.